Welcome back to the show, everybody, and thank you for rejoining us. Apologies that we didn't have any footage with regards to the Slovakia and Switzerland games that have just recently gone, but we're here talking about England, so we've won them, albeit it was a little bit testing at times. So good to see you as well, Matt. Looking forward to today's game.
Yeah, very much so. Another semi-final. So with the way we've been playing lately, I don't think it's going to be plain sailing, but we'll see.
Definitely, and we'll go through some of the key talking points. It is going to be a short video today, but I'll tell you what, let's quickly touch upon the Slovakia and Switzerland games. So the Slovakia game literally equalising with the last chance, of course, through Jude Bellingham. And it was just too close for comfort, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, it was poor game of football. I was actually travelling to Norway at the time, watching it on a boat, and when it got to the 86th minute, I retreated to my cabin. But then I just had a sneaky suspicion I need to turn the TV on, and I did, and they were replaying Bellingham's goal. So kind of think it was a bit of an omen that I went back to the cabin, to be honest, because I kind of lost my patience in the in one of the bars on the boat. Didn't look like a goal was coming. So yeah, we headed back to the cabin and switched it on and watched the rest of the game from the cabin. But yeah, no, it wasn't great football.
No.
I mean, I've been optimistic each round, even though the football's been negative. But I'm always trying to see the bright side of things, and that's kind of how I looked towards the Switzerland game. To be honest, if I was Switzerland with the way England have been playing and the way that they've played in this tournament, I was rubbing my hands if I was Switzerland.
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather have played England than Slovakia, to be honest. But yeah, again, the Swiss game, I thought we were better. I wouldn't say obviously it's the best we can play. We weren't so deep in that game. You believe it or not, but we weren't. If you look at all the stats and the heat maps and things like that, England were nowhere near as deep as they have been in previous games this tournament. So that's a positive.
Yeah.
That game's always going to be tricky, and I had a funny feeling it was going to go all the way. But when you look at it now, Konsa come in, did a good job for Guehi's suspension. The penalties, well, what can you say? I don't think I've ever seen England take 5 penalties as quite as good as that.
Yeah.
Even on the penalty shootouts, we have one. So yeah, again, it's. I think now it's all about being positive, and going into tonight's game now. Positive, really. The Netherlands are going to be tricky. Every game's been tricky at this tournament for England, but I think this one slightly more so. But yeah, it's be interesting. But it's good to see in the last game that we had some improvement. And I think now, with what Southgate's been saying recently, the criticism has kind of got to the team a bit, which I can kind of understand, and I think that's possibly had an effect, more so, to be fair. And but yeah, we're still in it. We're still in it. It's the main thing. We're still in it, and obviously France going out. Spain for me, I think, have been fantastic to watch. Watched a lot of Spain, and watched the Germany game as well while I was away in Norway, and thought they were fantastic. And if we do get to the final, we have got a real game on our hands.
Oh, most definitely. Last quick thing that I do want to mention with regards to that Switzerland game, and of course, Bukayo Saka is a man that I have got so much time for. He works. He honestly, he puts so much heart into every performance. And firstly, to score that equaliser, and it was a good equaliser, and then to step up for that penalty and to prove everybody wrong who abused him. To be honest, I had a bit of a tear in my eye because of it, because I think, he's a player that deserves the success that is coming his way. And who knows, that could well be, well, to be honest, the last two goals, of course, Bellingham's goal and then Saka's goal, are so important. It is the difference between going out and, staying in this tournament. So honestly, Saka was brilliant, standing up for that penalty. So let's get on to this game against the Netherlands, because we have got a selection headache. Now, my view on this, I'm going to save it to the end, but I think Konsa did a fantastic job against Switzerland. I really, really rate Konsa, but also Guehi hasn't put a foot wrong.
No, but and I've sung his praises on the last few shows we did, and but I think Konsa coming. I thought Konsa looked good. I mean, with Guehi, I sometimes just think there's a mistake in him somewhere. Um, and I was quite impressed with Konsa when he came in. I thought he was strong,
Yeah,
considering it's never easy coming into a back line, which has kind of been established through the tournament, and to fill in for someone that's been suspended. And he kind of fitted in there really nicely.
yeah.
And I was very impressed with the guy. He didn't look out of place at all. Similar to Guehi. Stats there, obviously, that's just in comparison to obviously Guehi's played. How many games has he played? The 4 games.
Yeah.
So obviously Konsa's is only literally from that one game. And to be fair, when you look at things like clearances and that, he's got the slight up on Guehi, and obviously tackles one. Obviously he won his only sort of tackle in that game, but blocks and balls recovered. He had a decent game. Obviously the stats there, it's a difficult one to compare because obviously Guehi's played more games, but I thought he was good. I thought he was solid, and I think he's put a good case forward for selection tonight.
I think it's going to be a very, very difficult decision now for Gareth Southgate. And the concerns at the start of the tournament about our defence have quickly been erased, and it's more concerns up the other end, which is, something that's playing on my mind. But these two have been absolutely fantastic. Konsa, of course, he's only played the one game, but he looked comfortable. He looked like he very, very assured, sensible. To be honest, Switzerland didn't have that many chances or clear cut chances apart from their goal. So I've got to be honest, I think there's an argument for, both of these. But of course, a lot of people will be thinking we can only play one. Now, I'm going to save it till the end because I've had a little think during the game last night, and between France and Spain, and of course the Spanish being in the final, and how we could prepare for that if we get there. And I think we have to probably make that change in tonight's game, but we'll come to that in a bit. So the left side debate, of course, Kieran Trippier has been playing in that position, but Luke Shaw has made an appearance. And firstly, Matt, do you think we risk Luke Shaw, over a Trippier who, let's be fair, it's not his strongest position, but at the same time, he's not done a bad job.
No, I mean it's always difficult for a, and I know I think was it Jamie O'Hara who's like dead against right backs filling in at left back, and you can see the balance just doesn't seem right. I mean, Trippier can come in, he can do a job there,
Hmm.
but attacking wise, I think it kind of slows us down a little bit. So obviously we like to attack with fullbacks. Um, really Trippier, he's come in, he's done a fantastic job. But for me personally, even if Shaw can do maybe 60 minutes,
Yeah,
it might help the flow a little bit more in those 60 minutes. Obviously, the guy hasn't played football since, is it February, before coming on as a sub the other day. So, you know, in terms of match fitness, he's definitely not going to be anywhere near. So, I mean, if you could get 60 minutes out of a Luke Shaw who can maybe create and make that flow on the left hand side easier, it
yeah.
might be well worth starting him.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you on that because I think, I think Luke Shaw is, I think he's a naturally left-sided player, which of course Trippier, isn't, he's not comfortable in that position really. But I think if Luke Shaw is available to play some minutes against the Netherlands, I think we've got to go with him. And
Yeah,
I would not be surprised that, Gareth Southgate, goes with Shaw on that left. But, of course, Kieran Trippier, that's nothing against Kieran. I just think it gives us a little bit more. And it's always a lot more difficult for Trippier. It just it doesn't feel as comfortable. So Shaw, for me, would definitely get the nod. Would
yeah. I
definitely get
mean,
the nod.
it's difficult. It's a difficult one playing. You know, Trippier has done well there, but attack from an attacking perspective, I just think sometimes where he's got to come in on his right, he he can't. I mean, sometimes he has got into the box and in forward positions, but I just think a natural left footer there is obviously the answer, which we haven't had up until now. Could be a case where he starts Trippier and then he
Hmm.
brings on Shaw around the 60-minute mark, and then or is that more of a risk with extra time and
Yeah,
if it goes that far, and will it be a case that if he's used all his subs up and then he breaks down during extra time, what do you do? It's one of those. I think for me the safer bet would be, if you are going to use him, might be to start him tonight. Um, for me, I think I would go with the start, take the risk. Okay, if he lasts 25 minutes, then that just proves it was a complete wrong decision to take the player in the first place.
yeah.
Obviously, with what we were told at press conferences and things like that, was that Shaw would be available at least to come off the bench for the Denmark game. And obviously, that's not materialised as the tournament has gone on, and comes on as a sub during the quarterfinals. So, yeah, this is a real difficult one to call for Southgate. I've got to admit.
Well, let's talk about another man, and of course, at the polar opposite end of the pitch, and this is Harry Kane. He's struggling. Is he unfit? Do we drop him? I think Harry Kane has been awful for England at Euro 2024, and his career record in semis and finals is atrocious. Should Gareth Southgate consider dropping him? Kane has scored 4 goals and provided 2 assists in 1,551 minutes, a rate of 1 goal contribution every 258.5 minutes across 17 semi-finals and final matches for club and country. He's been picked despite being unfit with weird frequency. Draw your own conclusions on Kane and England at Euro 2024. Speaking to the sports bar, O'Hara said of Kane, he's a problem in this tournament. He really is. He's been miles off it. He just slows the game down. his opinion shocked co-host Jason Cundy, who said, "You're dropping your skipper in a semi-final of a European Championship. Think about what you're saying. That's enormous." Matt, do we drop him?
I'm a no. I'm a
At this,
no, and the only reasons I am a no is
mm,
because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It should be an easy yes, really, because I mean, at club level, you would drop him.
yeah,
Um, but the thing is, Southgate drops him, we get knocked out. Then you can see a lot of criticism saying, "Well, why have you dropped our all-time leading goal scorer?" I think it's one of those situations where you can't really win.
mm,
Um, he's the captain. He's meant to be the manager's voice on the pitch. Now, really, it's like Jason Cundy said, it's an enormous decision to make. But the thing is that we do have options on the bench,
yeah,
and we can always make changes in the game. I think this might be a bit of a criticism. One of my criticisms of Southgate is that we've got players on the bench that can do certain jobs. Why haven't we used them?
mm,
Like Tony. I mean, as everybody knows, I've been a very big critic of Tony. But to say when he came on against Slovakia, I was impressed with him.
yeah. Same
Um,
here.
and he created the assist for Kane, and to score the winner. His penalty taking, to be fair, has always been very good. But that penalty shootout the other day, looking at him and the way he taking the composure he has when he takes a penalty is unreal. So if Kane again, if he can only last 60, 70 minutes tonight, you've got the option on the bench to sub him. You've got the option. Okay,
Yeah,
people may say it might be too late by then. I just think it might be an easier decision if he wasn't captain,
mm,
for me. But as he's the captain as well, he starts for me. Um, and but what O'Hara is saying, he does slow the game down a bit and if this is due to fitness, you can see why. Because the amount of times over the last several games where balls have been put into the box, when we have managed to get a ball into the box towards
yeah.
that 6 yard line, Kane's nowhere to be seen. And that's where you need a Harry Kane. You need a Harry Kane that he will finish all day. But he doesn't seem to be getting into those positions. He's always dropped deep. He's always done that. Everybody knows that. But he's always managed to get into the box as well and score goals. Whereas at this tournament, he's kind of not managing to do that. So I do see O'Hara's point massively, do see it, but just for
Yeah.
me, it's just that captaincy, it's that leadership.
During the Switzerland game, in the first half of extra time, there was that crossover from Saka, and Harry Kane had been pulled so far wide, trying to, I guess, trying to mark somebody else out. He doesn't need to do that. If he was in that position, and got his head to it, that would have been a goal. It was a pinpoint perfect cross by Saka, but he was nowhere to be seen, like you say. And I'm not one of these who is, because he is the leading all-time goal scorer, that he should always get the nod. Personally, it has to be based on how we're going to play this. It's got to be looked at is, are we going to be, counter-attacking? Is he feeling just a bit isolated up front? Do we give him support? Is Tony going to go up there with him? Does he get dropped for Ollie Watkins? Somebody with a little bit of pace, sits on the shoulder of the last defender, can turn that last defender, break away. Um, and that's really the big question for me. I'm not bit at this point in time. I do see what Jason Cundy is saying, but it's not a time to be sentimental. This is a semi-final of a European Championships that we could win and were the favourites for. You know, I know that Spain have overtaken us in that, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because playing the underdog sometimes is a little bit better. But Harry Kane's pace has dipped a little bit. He does seem a little bit unfit. And I think Southgate has to make a call later on today and say, right, is he ready for this game? If not, then he gets dropped for Ivan Toney, who, I think is capable of playing up front on his own. Or do we go with Ollie Watkins, somebody who can turn? If you want my opinion, I say we give Harry Kane the nod, but we're not scared to change it because we have got captains on that pitch. Declan Rice can step into the captaincy. Jude Bellingham, is quite vocal on there. I know he's a young man, but he's got the experience of Real Madrid. And of course, that's going to come in pivotal if we do get to the final as well, because he'll know exactly how the Spanish play. And of course, we'll touch on that in a bit as well. But I personally think we go with Harry Kane as it stands at the moment. But
Yeah, no, I do agree. And to be honest with you, the way Southgate works, can anyone really see him making such a brave decision like that? I can't see it.
no, not I can't see it. I can't see it. But let's have a look at a former Cherry, of course, a Nathan Ake, who is looking at knocking out the Three Lions. Hopefully, he's unsuccessful in doing so. But Nathan, very, very nice man. And honestly, I do wish him all the very, very best, with whatever he puts his hand to, just not later on today. So, Holland star Nathan Ake recognise that he's a face that we recognise as England not peaking form. Both teams meet in the Euro semi-finals after a run of scratchy performances. Manchester City defender Ake said, "I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of players I know from the Premier League. We know their individual qualities, and it's a semi-final, so it will be tough. We're building momentum. We came through tough stages at the start of the tournament. And now we got to go through another test. So I think we're ready for it. Underdog or not, it doesn't matter. We focus on ourselves. We know what we need to do. We are very close now. And he is going to be dependable. He's going to be a danger in our box if there is any corners. He's a man that, you know, I'm fearful of because we know how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone, Bournemouth related, Chelsea related, City related, all know what, a good player Nathan Ake is. And it's it's a game where he knows he's going to have to be on his toes, even though he's admitted that England aren't on peak form. But, a semi-final is a semi-final. And, Holland have built up a momentum since the start of the group stages. And it's going to be a tricky game, but I think the extra bit that Ake and Virgil van Dijk and Gakpo, players like that,
Yeah.
have is that they've played with these players week in, week out.
Yes.
Which obviously gives you a good little stepping stone. Virgil van Dijk and Harry Kane will have battled many times over the years. And there'll be times when Kane's got the better of him and Virgil's got the better of Kane. So, and, as we were just discussing with the fitness of Kane, who's going to come out on top on that one. It will be interesting. He's definitely going to need some support, Kane, if he's holding the ball up against the likes of Ake and Van Dijk, if he's, with his fitness. They've got a quiet confidence about them, I think, the Netherlands. I think their fan base is very confident that they can go on and win the Euros for the first time since 1988. And yeah, I think they're a side that have probably underachieved as well a lot over the the years, when you look at the likes of the players that they've had at their disposal, they're kind of, like people keep using this word that I don't like, golden generation.
Mm.
When they've had the likes of Bergkamp and Van Nistelrooy and Overmars and Davids, and you can go on with names that they've had, over the years. Would you say individually a lot of the Holland players are as good as some of those names? Probably not, but as a team, they work well together. And I think that's what we're going to see tomorrow night. It's going to be tonight. It's going to be a real difficult battle.
Yeah, most definitely. And what you've got to also think as well, and this is what might be going through Southgate's head, is, with regards to who we play up front, is do we go with an Ollie Watkins because they've got two big men in the centre who are very, very good with their head, very, very good at clearing the ball in the air. So that's another predicament that Southgate's got to make later on today and decide what is best. And that's also probably a reason why maybe Kane, could be dropped for somebody like Ollie Watkins, who's got the pace, because Virgil van Dijk hasn't got as much pace, let's be honest, as Watkins. So that's another thing I think that he does have to consider. But let's have a look at the Dutchmen. The Dutch is danger man up front, and this is Denzel Dumfries. Yeah, he is a danger on that right flank. I think he was fantastic against Romania, like it says there as well. Um, he's the one to watch, isn't he? And he's going to be a man that we're going to have to keep quiet. And that might be a reason why, Luke Shaw is possibly, the best bet for this.
Yeah, quite possibly. This guy is. I'm not too sure what club he plays for. Is it Inter Milan or somebody like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And he has been very impressive in the four matches that I've seen.
Mm,
Um, he's one of those, tricky players. Is he a fullback? Is he a winger? He can also pop up with goals. I think he's gonna. If I was Luke Shaw coming back into my first sort of starting game, and I see this man is on my flank, I'm gonna be in for a very, very tricky game without the match fitness. Again, if this guy does start, that could be where Southgate makes the decision that Trippier starts. Um, if he believes that this Denzel will start, but yeah,
mhm.
he's got some pace on him. Tricky player. Um, yeah, I don't think I'd want to defend against him.
No, and I think, even when the Dutch have flattered to deceive, which, to be honest, they got through their group in third. They weren't particularly very good in, getting through their group stage. He's stood out. So, he is somebody to keep an eye on. But also, this man, Gakpo. Of course, he was top of the goal scoring charts because of goals scored and assists. He has been knocked off the Golden Boot for the moment because of the goal yesterday in by Dani Olmo for Spain. So Dani Olmo has got it at the moment based on assists, but this man is dangerous, isn't he?
Yeah, he had a great World Cup in Qatar,
Yeah.
which obviously prompted Liverpool to pay 35 million for him. He's done well at Liverpool as well,
Mhm.
and he's done well at this tournament. He's taken his league form into this tournament. So yeah, the likes of Stones and Guehi or Konsa, whoever he picks to form a partnership at the back, have got to be on their toes with this guy. Yeah, I mean, his goal from. I'm just trying to remember his goals now. The one outside the area's done a blank. I
Mm,
don't know if that was. I think that was a pretty decent goal, if I remember rightly. But they're all going to be up for it, and any good side doesn't just rely on a goal scorer to grab all the goals. They've got goals in them across the whole pitch. So I mean, like we said earlier, we know what Nathan Ake can do if there's a corner.
yeah,
So they've got goals all across the pitch. They won't need to just rely on Gakpo for goals. Obviously, Depay, I think he's popped up with a couple, hasn't he? Memphis
yeah.
Depay, and he's looked good this tournament. So yeah, there's a few danger men that we are going to have to be on our toes for. But can we sit back and just keep possession like we've done in earlier games against these? I really don't think we can,
Mm,
because I think we will get punished on this one. Um, you know, it's knockout football, isn't it? Anything can happen,
yeah.
and I don't think we're going to have the performances we all want to see.
Hmm.
I think that's one I'm resound to. But again, if we bring her trophy home, no one's going to really be bothered about the performances at this tournament. And so tonight I'm not expecting England to come out and do what we did at Euro '96 and beat them convincingly. And because at the time they were called they called Total Football at the time, Holland.
Yeah.
With the players they had at their disposal then, and we come out and destroyed them that day 4-1. I can't see that happening. I mean, I hope I am wrong. I'd love to see it happen again, but yeah, it's gonna be a tricky one.
I was thinking about this the other day, and going back to that Euro '96 game, that 4-1 win, and to be honest, that is probably the best England performance I've ever seen in my lifetime. Now, a lot of people be saying, "Well, what about the 5-1 win against Germany and things like that?" But the Germans weren't very good. The Dutch were very, very dangerous back then, and they they started the game, with that bit of an intent, but England were just miles above them. And that is why, that has got to be my number one England performance in my lifetime. For that sole reason, it was a complete performance for England. So if we can replicate that, that will be quite impressive. But let's give Southgate a little bit of credit here. Now, the pressure has been on Southgate for the whole of the Euro 2024 finals. We've all seen the AI memes that have been going around, and we've all had a bit of a chuckle. And I'm sure the FA said that it's not helpful and it's not useful, but I guess it's English banter, isn't it? But at the same time, this man has actually taken England to three semi-finals, and of course, the Euro 2020 final. How does he rank against the previous England managers? Now, let's have a little look at this. Now, Sir Alf Ramsey is the first one, of course, the man that won the World Cup. He was the manager between 1963 and 1974, played 113, won 69, drew 27, lost 17, a win ratio of 61.1%. Of course, World Cup winners in 1966. 1970 got through to the quarter-finals of the Euros, and then, of the World Cup, I should say, and then 1974 failed to qualify. But the European Championships got to third place and then a quarter-final. Now, he is, the messiah of English football at this point in time. He is the only man to have guided the England team to a World Cup. Um, I think it's very, very difficult, unless a manager wins it, for anybody to dislodge him. And I think by saying I think a manager would need to win the World Cup again to actually dislodge Sir Alf Ramsey. Now, if Southgate was to stay on after this tournament, wins the Euros, then goes to the US, Canada, and Mexico and wins that, then there's an argument there. But at
Well, I
this
mean, I
point,
don't think there is there really? I mean, if you've won the Euros and you go and win the World Cup, that's it. You are
yeah,
you're
yeah,
top dog, aren't you? I mean, the idea of this really is to look at kind of their runs. So,
yeah,
Alf Ramsey, he's won the World Cup. He is the pinnacle, like you say.
mm,
But 1970, he got to the quarterfinals. 1974, he failed to get us qualified.
mm. This
Right now,
is
Southgate has
yeah,
never had a failure in qualification.
yes,
That was the famous year. I don't know if you know, but when Brian Clough was a panelist on um, the telly, he was calling the Polish goalkeeper a clown because he kept every single England shot out at Wembley that
yeah,
we needed to beat the Poles to obviously qualify for the World Cup. So that's something that Southgate hasn't had.
mm,
The championships. Okay, yeah, European Championship. Okay, so he's a losing finalist, which you know Ramsey never managed to achieve at European level.
yeah,
So it's just and when you compare, like he's had a 61.1% win rate, and he's managed 13 games more
mm,
than Southgate, and I think Southgate's win ratio, when we look in a minute, I think that's about 60%. So it's just quite interesting to see that. Yeah, obviously Alf has got the one thing nobody else has got is the World Cup. But when you look at it, he's not much different to
mm.
Southgate in some places.
And you could say that it's kind of tailed off. So from winning the World Cup, third place, then the quarterfinal in Euros, and then failed to qualify. It's kind of tailed off,
Yes, yeah,
towards the end. So, um, as much as it, not taking anything away, because I'm sure that people will be sat here, they're going, no, you can't, knock Sir Alf Ramsey. That is the facts there. But
yeah.
he
I
has got
mean,
the one thing that, nobody else
yeah.
has got.
I mean, the other thing as well is obviously, we all know Southgate's club record
Mm,
of managing. If memory serves me right, I believe that when Alf Ramsey was offered the job in 1962, he wanted to stay with Ipswich
yeah.
because they were actually struggling in the league. So his club career at Ipswich didn't end too strongly.
Hmm.
And obviously Southgate had a relegation with Middlesbrough.
Very, very interesting,
So
actually.
some managers, are cut out for international football. Southgate, you know, no Man United fan I think that I've ever spoken to recently who, when you wind them up about Southgate being linked to, you know, um, United after the tournament, no, we don't want Southgate. No, nobody wants Southgate at their club, but
Yeah,
can't take anything really off him. I know there's high opinion, there's opinions from, our friend Ryan at Huddersfield Town TV. He's very anti Southgate. I can see why.
yeah,
You can see why. Manny, our friend on the channel, he's got some real opinions on Southgate, which again I understand, but there is a little case for him.
hmm.
Um, I mean, this guy,
This guy was a legend.
um,
Absolute legend.
yeah, again, he had a very difficult time in the job.
Hmm.
Obviously, he had a lot of press and that up against him, like similar to what Southgate's pretty much had, and a lot of England managers across the years. But World Cups, quarterfinals, and a semi-final.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And to be honest, that was the hand of God year, wasn't it? If I'm right in thinking. And then, of course, the
No,
semi-final,
1986. Sorry, that's wrong.
no,
1986.
1986.
1986 and 1990. 1984 was the Euros year, and we failed
Yeah.
to qualify.
Mm.
And then 1988, we only got as far as the group stage.
See, it goes to show how tough this tournament is as well. You know, the Euros, in some ways, can be a tougher competition than the World Cup can.
I mean, I know
Um,
a lot of people prefer the Euros. I mean, I think I prefer the Euros to the World Cup, to be honest. And I think other like pundits like Gary Neville, I think he said he prefers the Euros to the World Cup. And you know, again, look at this. I mean, he's got a win percentage of 49.47%.
mhm.
He drew 30 of his games. It's quite a lot of games to draw, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it
Okay,
is.
he's only lost 18, but a lot of those draws, so it's kind of, for me, we've had great managers, and Robson is always looked upon about, World Cup 1990,
Yeah.
where that year we should have won the World Cup.
Mhm.
But we got all this negativity about Southgate. Okay, the way Southgate sides, the side has been playing recently, but we've had that for years over different courses of managers.
I think why there is so much criticism is because we have got such a strong side now. This is the thing, is this side is, without a shadow of doubt, one of the strongest in the world. You know, in terms of style, we'll touch on that very, very briefly. But this is an England side, that should be competing, you know, at the highest level. I think, Robson did an outstanding job in 1990. He did an outstanding job in 1990 because I think, okay, yeah, we did have certain players. Were we as strong as we are now? That is the big question for me. And I
Yeah, but
don't.
you see, this keeps coming up as well,
Mm,
and for me, there's been, you could go back, right? Okay, Italian 90 should
yeah,
have won it.
yeah,
Euro 96 should have won it. Euro 2004 when Rooney burst onto the scene
yeah.
should have won it. There's tournaments you can go back over the years that you can say we should have won.
2002, the World Cup. I'm sure if that goal hadn't drifted over Seaman's head, I think we would have won that.
2002, yeah,
Yeah,
that wasn't a bad squad. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So you can go back through the years, and we've had players, this whole golden generation, Beckham and all that lot. Well, they should have won something,
yeah,
and this is, everyone's saying, no, we've got the strongest squad we've ever had. Now we've had strong squads over the years,
yeah,
and this is where, for me, all this being said about, Southgate, which I have been critical of him during this tournament,
yeah,
absolutely, and rightly so. But if he gets us to this final, or even to, we go out of this semi-final, his track record as England manager, apart from winning, apart from Alf Ramsey winning the World Cup, he is undoubtedly England's second best manager.
yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
And no one can argue. It's like everyone's saying, Southgate, needs to go at the end of the tournament. Probably does, in fairness. Unless he wins it
Hmm.
and he wants to have a shot at the World Cup, I couldn't blame him, because if you win it, he wants to have a shot at the World Cup. He's won a major tournament. Second England manager to ever do it if he wins this tournament. So really, you've got to kind of give him the chance to take us through to World Cup in 2 years' time.
Yeah,
But
and to be
even if we finish up as semi-finalists at this tournament, look at his record: semi-final, quarter-final, runners-up, semi-final. Well, go back and look at Brian Robson's record. Failed to qualify.
Yeah. It's very, very
qualify
true.
out of the group stage. Semi-final of a World Cup.
And
Well,
losing only 16 games? Like,
16 games, win percentage of 60%.
hmm,
The football we're playing at the minute is not excitable.
no.
The football, this is why this, we've called this podcast The Football Ain't Sexy, but it's given Southgate a semi on, or whatever it is we've called it, because the football isn't sexy. The football
No.
isn't good. We're not, and no one dislikes watching. We all like to watch good football.
Yeah.
But if we bring this trophy home, are we really going to be talking about how naff we were against Denmark?
No, most definitely not. It'll all
That's
be
just why.
forgotten, won't it?
This is just my point on it. The football's been disappointing with the calibre of players we've got.
Hmm.
But the one thing that Southgate is pretty good at is tournament football.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to find the best way to navigate through a tournament, because a lot of tournaments, look at Portugal when they won it.
They were
Again,
poor. And they
yeah,
didn't turn it on to the semi-final, if I remember rightly. I think they
mm,
finished third in their group.
yeah,
Um,
they did, yeah.
I think they staggered through like we have,
Hmm.
and then they turned it on the semi-final. Or were they still not great at the semi-final?
I think they did all right in the semi-final, but
Either
they were.
way, tell me what's different.
Yeah, exactly. And you look back throughout the years, you've got Denmark when they won it. They weren't even meant to be in the European Championships. It was just because of, I believe it was the fall of the Soviet Union, wasn't it? That why Denmark managed to get in there. And likewise, Greece when they won it. It was drab, boring football, but it was effective. And then it's a bit like, sorry to bring him up, but it's a bit like, Gary O'Neill at
Oh
Wolves.
God!
The football's not attractive, is it? But at the same time, it's effective, and that's what we need. But I think we're going to have to really turn it on against the Dutch to start off with. They're no mugs, and then of course, if we get through, then after watching Spain last night, and
Well, watching Spain the majority of the tournament, to be honest with you,
yeah,
um,
and
they've been
that
on real form, and that little wonder kid they've got that plays for he's fantastic
Lamine
to watch.
Yamal,
And, Williams is it? I think he's absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
So yeah, if we do get there, I mean, we've obviously got tonight's game to get through first, but if we
mm,
do get there, that is going to be a real challenge.
exactly, and defensively as well, because they are the best attacking side. It was Lamine Yamal, 16 years old. 16 years old. When I was 16 years old, I was trying to get into pubs. He's there getting Spain to a Euro final. There we go. But I'll tell you what, Matt, let's have a little look at your formation for this. And then I've done my formation, but I'll hold back. But explain it.
Well, it's what he's going to play, isn't it? I can't see him being brave in terms of formation, but in terms of poor personnel,
Hmm.
um, yeah, if Shaw can start, he starts. For me, I thought Konsa was good. I would personally keep him in. Like I say, I think Gay's got a mistake in him somewhere. I think Konsa looks good and strong. Walker, for me, I don't think he's been good this tournament.
No, I
I
don't.
think his touches have been poor. His first touch, that's been really poor. Um, he's. I mean, don't forget, got to give him some credit. He's into his 30s now. If he's played, God knows how many games he's played for City this season. I'm sure that's had an impact somewhere along the line. But for me, I love Walker. Um, he would be in my all-time England squad, but I just think he's been pretty poor. Rice and Mainu. I mean, for me, no one else can really start there. Bellingham, um, yeah, it was a tricky one for me because I want some pace, and Saka and Gordon, I think, will give us some pace. So that's why for me, I push Foden aside, which some people think is absolutely crazy. But Bellingham or Foden, for me, Bellingham edges it for England.
Mhm.
And not only that, he's so ahead of himself, Bellingham, in terms of, you see him on the pitch and he's encouraging. He is like a young cat. He will be a captain, I think,
Yeah.
possibly for England one day, and definitely at club level because he communicates, he G's people up. He even puts an arm around people. He's for me, he has to start, and obviously Kane. Um, we debated earlier on about it, but for me, he starts.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, are you ready for it? Because I've gone for something a little bit more dramatic. And this is because after watching Spain last night, I think we need to prepare for this. We have to. What do you make of that, firstly, at initial sight? Um,
Um, he ain't gonna do it. Is my first. Yeah,
mhm,
no.
yeah. I think
Um,
personally, though,
yeah.
that is a strong, strong spine through the side. See, Stones in the centre, Guehi and Konsa either side. Now the thing is we are coming. We're going to come up against Cody Gakpo. Tonight, and I think personally that is why overload that centre. If they get players out wide, fair enough. Let it fire in. But we've got three men there in the centre, standing strong, with Rice just in front of them, and that midfield, well, kind of diamond shape. Personally, I think that is the way to beat the Spanish in the final if we get there, and that's why I personally think we need to start this now before we get there to make sure, by all means, if it's not working, change it, get Luke Shaw on, you know, get Walker on, you can modify that. But personally, I think that the midfield, and plus Foden playing just behind Kane, is going to give Kane that little bit of support that means that he's not going to have to dart out of position because Foden's doing the running there behind him. So Kane sticks there in that position, being that target man because he hasn't got the pace. Now, if we are going to play the formation that you suggested, which is probably what I think Southgate is going to go with, I would personally, and you can disagree with me on this, I would start Ivan Tony.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with that. The only thing I would change with this, to be honest, is I would probably take maybe a midfielder out
Mm.
and go two up top.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I think maybe, but he's not going to play free at the back, is he? He's not going to do it. I mean, there's been times. One of the games, wasn't it? Was it the Denmark game or the?
hmm
I can't remember which game it was, but I did a lineup I put three at the back, which I
yeah.
think was Walker, Stones, and Gay. I think. Um, I'd love to see three at the back. Just can't see him doing it.
After watching the Spanish last night, and this is one thing we've got to be ready for. If we do get through this game, and I'm sure the Dutch will probably do a similar sort of thing as well, is effectively what Iriola does at Bournemouth. The press, high press. That's what they were doing to the French. And the thing is the French defence are a very, very solid outfit. What we want to do is get this ball up the pitch as quickly as possible and have that outlet to do that to Spain and do that to the Dutch, where we can put on the press from the front. Stones is good enough to mop up if there's that long ball. Konsa's good enough if there's that long ball. Guehi's good enough. And of course, you got Declan Rice running his heart out in the centre there. Bellingham, can be creative from that position, as can Mainu. I just think Foden, that will play more into what Pep plays him like at Manchester City than what Southgate has done. And I think he'll love that. Playing behind Kane. Kane stays up front. Kane might not get that many touches playing this formation. But if those touches end up in the back of the net, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, not if the ball ends up in the back of the net. But
he's not going to do it though, anyway, is
I
he?
mean, so for me, Foden, Foden, he's. I mean, like they've said, a few of the pundits have said, he doesn't really play behind the striker anyway at City, does he? He comes in.
Yeah.
And because he has that support, he can come in and be more free. He just doesn't have that. Even if he was put there, he doesn't have that license for England. If Pep was manager of England, Foden would be England's best player, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And we've, to be honest, the personnel are quite similar. This is with, of course, Luke Shaw. Rested him for later on in the match. That's one thing that I've thought about. Anthony Gordon, we both agree with that. I think Gordon deserves to start this match. Saka is undroppable. Personally, I would actually say Saka is more undroppable than Bellingham is at this moment in time. So, yeah, that is my formation. Let us know if you agree with me or Matt. But of course, later on today, it is the big one. And of course, it is England versus the Netherlands at Dortmund. Of course, Bellingham knows that stadium quite well. So, one disadvantage though England have got is the Dutch have got the yellow, or it will be orange wall at the stadium as well. So no doubt they're going to be making a lot of noise behind there. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be looking forward to Sunday after this and a meeting with the Spanish with potentially our second ever trophy. It's mad to even bloody think like that, isn't it? How many years of hurt will it be gone? 58 years of hurt will be over. Finally. Finally.
Yeah, it's
A long bloody time.
shocking for our nation, really, isn't it? That we haven't won anything in that time scale. But hey ho, that's football, and yeah, it really should be, we should be saying our third trophy, because we should have beaten the Italians.
Yeah.
And I think the worst thing that game, looking back at it, was that we scored too early.
Yeah.
And then we sat back, and the rest is history. And it's we should have won that. We should have won that. We should be saying our potential third trophy, but yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, let's see what happens tonight. It's going to be squeaky bum time, I think, for
Yes.
90 plus minutes. I think it might go all the way.
Yeah.
But let's just hope that if it does go all the way, that we execute 5 beautiful penalties like we did the other day.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, let us know what you think the score will be in the description below, or on Twitter or X, or whatever you call it, Instagram. We're everywhere. Facebook as well. Come join us on Facebook if you want. So yeah, let us know what you think. Thank you as always for Dental on the Banks for sponsoring this channel, and also thank you to Talksport, because we are the AFC Bournemouth Talksport channel of choice. So do give that a follow as well. We're on Spotify, Google Playlists, or whatever it is. So we're everywhere. But until next one, from me, and of course from Matt, thank you for joining us. And come on, England.
Sport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.